was so close. I spotted a buck just up north.
What you need is a bunch of trail cameras you can just put around all over the place.
All right, and welcome to another episode of The Vinny Show. I'm your host, Vinny. Today we have a guest from Kansas. His name is Nathan Light. He's a filmmaker. And as we just saw in that trailer, Vendatta Road, this is the man responsible for it. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Vinny. It's good to be on. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. And I'm really excited about your upcoming production here, and we saw a little glimpse of it just now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm Nathan Light. I'm a filmmaker from Wichita, Kansas. I've lived in Wichita my whole life. I've been doing various passion projects throughout the last couple of years. I started off being a documentary filmmaker primarily. I've made 2 half-hour documentaries in the past. They've played at multiple film festivals around the Midwest and multiple film venues around around Wichita primarily. They've some of the most popular film venues around Wichita, such as the Drive-In or the Crown Uptown Theater or the Orpheum Theater here in Wichita, I've had my work play at. And the most popular film festivals I've had play here are mainly the Tallgrass Film Festival. And ever since 2020, I began to tackle my first narrative feature. That was quite an interesting experience, and it was a lot of fun along the way, too, if I may say so myself.
That's great. So now, how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing this for about 7 years, primarily since I first started at film school at Hutchinson Community College in 2016, and I transferred over to Wichita State in 2018 after I got my associates from Hutchinson Community College. Then I got my bachelor's in digital arts at Wichita State University in 2020, and ever since, there was the feature film I did, and I also did various short films for other people and various other sorts of media, like videos in a way, like commercials and music videos for other people.
Right. And I know, being around filmmakers, I know that it's a labor of love. So there's a lot of time, a lot of money that goes into it, and sometimes it's hard to recoup that. But it is, from everything that I've experienced, it's a passion, and you certainly seem like you have it. So, all right, great. And tell us a little bit about some of the accomplishments maybe you're most proud of in the last 7 years.
My accomplishments I'm most proud of is getting my work into the Tallgrass Film Festival, and also getting it to play in several venues such as the Drive-In. That was a very cool experience. And also at the Doc Sunback Film Festival for my first documentary I made called Simian Scope, The Making of King Kung Fu, which is about the making of a film from the 1970s that was filmed in Wichita. So I made a documentary about that, and it won the Best Kansas Documentary at the Doc Sunback Film Festival in 2021. So that was a huge accomplishment.
Congratulations. Now, that sounds really interesting. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, Simian Scope, The Making of King Kung Fu. I don't know if you've ever heard of the movie King Kung Fu, but
I haven't. Although, when I was a little boy, I used to love watching all the kung fu movies. So I may have seen it. I probably just don't remember it.
Well, a little backstory about the film. It was a movie produced in Wichita in the 1970s, and it was produced by a production company that mainly did car commercials. And
Hmm.
I think they came up with the King Kung Fu character, which is a gorilla who knows karate, when driving by the tallest building in Wichita at the time, which was a Holiday Inn Plaza. And they thought, wouldn't it be funny to have a gorilla on top of there? Wouldn't it be fun to have King Kong specifically up there, fighting on top of the Holiday Inn? And what if they karate chopped one of the planes or whatever? And they just thought, what? Someone made a side comment saying, well, you wouldn't name it King Kong, you would name it King Kung Fu. And they're like, wow, that sounds like the title of the movie. And so they filmed the movie from 1974 to 1976. And the film sat for 11 years and wasn't released until 1987. Their initial cut of the movie was 3 hours long, and they had a difficult time getting it shorter, as well as difficulty finding a distributor. And initially they did, and they were able to cut it down to a reasonable length for that type of movie. And, King Kung Fu, it has a charm to it. It also has its critics, probably no more than the guys who made it. I think they rip on it more than anyone else does. But when I was a couple years ago, I had known about the film and I was curious and I wanted to know more about the movie. And so I gathered around many of the cast and crew members in Wichita who were still alive from that time and basically interviewed them about their experience making the film. And something interesting I found was that King Kung Fu, it wasn't just a film that just came and went under the radar. Today it's like this, it's an obscure film and it's like this subject of discovery. People in Wichita today are just like, hey, did you know there was a movie filmed here in Wichita that has a gorilla on top of the Holiday Inn Plaza fighting a helicopter? And yeah, it wasn't, just some obscure film that just came and went. There was actually a lot of hype for it back then. And especially when it was being filmed. I think they were interviewed by a film critic, a very famous film critic back then named Rona Barrett, who interviewed them about the film. And this was right when the 1976 remake of King Kong was about to come out. And so it gained publicity. The producer of King Kung Fu, Bob Walterscheid, he made a bunch of comments saying that his King Kung Fu gorilla could be, the Dino De Laurentiis 1976 King Kong up. And people ate it up, and yeah, there was a lot of hype for the film, especially in Wichita while it was being filmed. But I think once they had finished principal photography and they just kind of, after it was taking, multiple years to be able to finally get done with editing and be able to put it out, I think people just lost interest. And, there's even people on internet forums that you could find who've asked hey, this King Kung Fu movie, did it ever get finished? And yeah, it was an interesting experience to be able to interview all of the cast and crew members for that and tell their experience about the film and what they did and their interpretation of the film, looking back on it. And it was a lot of fun. It's now going to be a bonus feature on the Blu-ray release, the upcoming Blu-ray release of King Kung Fu.
Well, Nathan, I've come to two conclusions. One, I definitely have not seen it because I would remember that. And the other conclusion is, now I definitely have to see it because it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
It's really something.
And it's really cool for you to have kind of re-demonstrated that to the general public. So I'll tell you what, I have a hunch our guests, and please guests, make sure you comment. I think you might have just piqued their interest in this too.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
All right, cool. So, all right, tell us about some struggles along the way, because obviously there's plenty of them. But tell us some things that you've come, and you still have challenges, of course. But what are some struggles along the way?
Like in regards to this King Kong Fu documentary, or just in
Well,
general?
just in general, as a filmmaker in Kansas.
Mainly finding people who, with, making no budget films, trying to find people who are willing to help you along the way, and being able to show them that you're willing to help return the favor in the future, and also being able to find people who'll take you seriously, because filmmaking in Kansas, there's not much of it at all. We don't have film tax incentives for it, and so it takes a lot out of you to be able to get the help you need. And I would say, especially from an independent, no budget perspective, being able to find the crew and cast that you need, and being able to work around other people's schedules too. I think that's a biggie as well. I had that experience making my film Vendatta Road. You make all this time, you give these couple of weeks to be able to shoot the movie, and then you're behind schedule, and then you end up just having to work around other people's, just the cast and crew that you need. You were willing to work around their schedule afterwards, and you end up only being available to continue filming every third weekend of the month or whatever. And so, yeah, I would say being able to find the help, like both financially as well, being able to find investors and being able to find people who can take you seriously, especially if you're starting from the ground up, because a lot of people can be very discouraging on this, journey that you're putting yourself on. They don't know who you are, and you have to be able to build a name for yourself on your own. And yeah, that's what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly sympathize with that. I'm in Philly, the Northeast region up here. Certainly have maybe a bigger pool of resources in terms of maybe actors and financiers and just overall help with a project like what you're working on. But because we had an interview with another gentleman who is in Palm Springs, Sonny Velosi, another filmmaker, originally from Philly, went out to Palm Springs, California. So you go from a city of over 1 million to a town of 30,000. So he kind of reflected that same sort of, but somehow, some way, you find the right people for the job, and somehow, some way, it gets done. I will say though, those tax incentives, and I would make appeal to your local and state governments to really look into that, because they are attractive to filmmakers and to, as far as bringing that type of industry into the general locale of where you're at.
Right, exactly.
Okay, great.
You
So
also need
now
that thick skin.
so you touched upon Vendatta Road. Let's tell the guests about what Vendatta Road is. We saw the little clip there in the beginning, but tell us about it.
Well, Vendatta Road is a feature-length thriller that I made on a budget of $5,000 that I filmed in 2021, and it's about this cabin campground host named Dakota Brooks. She's a deer hunter, and she's having a difficult time catching a buck that she really wants. And she's advised by someone whose shifts she's taking over to buy a bunch of deer trail cameras and put them around the campsite. And what she discovers is someone who she believes has just committed murder. And after she interrogates him, she learns that he is a running fugitive from a mafia syndicate. So that's the basic premise of the film.
Wow, awesome! Sounds like it's really exciting. But
yeah,
the thing that's so fascinating, Nathan, with this type of industry is, again, sort of going back to what we said in the beginning of this interview, is it's out of passion. And people that are like yourself that are doing it, and friends of mine that are doing it out of passion. and you find a way somehow with little to no money, and you get these people that pop into your life and somehow come across with just the exact help that you need, whether it's finance or just acting or whatever it is. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's such an amazing medium in itself. It's an art that is very difficult for those people that think, I can make a movie. It's really hard. I've seen it. I've been a part of it. I've seen it up close and personal. It's not easy. There's so many variables that go into it. So I give you a lot of credit.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And like I said, you have to have thick skin, and this really has to come from a passion. And another thing you should learn to develop when starting from a dental floss budget, like you say, is being able to find the style of the movie disguise how unbelievably cheap it is to make. That's why I find a great inspiration from Robert Rodriguez's book, Rebel Without a Crew, where he basically teaches that you don't have to follow any sort of rules to make a movie. You just gotta be able to you know just look at whatever resources you have and make a movie around that. I came up with the idea for Vendetta Road in 2020 when the world was still semi shut down, and I just thought, since I wasn't doing anything at the time and there were no events planned for me, and I thought now was the most appropriate time than ever to make a feature length film and to finally fulfill that passion, that lifelong dream, and be able to find the style, think of a story that's unbelievably cheap to make, that's also compelling and interesting to watch. And yeah, I'm basically that doesn't require too many people, and something that you can put out there while the world is still semi shut down.
Well, it's a recurring theme with this show, and I know I'm being repetitive to the guests who watch, but again, I'm going to say it again now. That 2020, that whole pandemic, horrible crisis, led to a lot of people like yourself that had the time for the first time, maybe in years, to think of something to do, whether it's social media, whether it was filmmaking, whatever career change it was. If there was any bright spot in all that gloom, that was it. So I'm glad to hear that, because I love hearing those type of stories.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And yeah, I think, like what my a professor I once had said, that creativity lies within limitation, and when you have limitation, you find ways to be able to make something more compelling than ever. And you know, yeah, that time really opened doors for people to think creatively and be able to still be able to push their products out.
All right, so let's get back to, maybe, do you have any mentors or influences, whether personal or on screen, that kind of motivate you to do what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Like who I've already mentioned before, Robert Rodriguez. He basically inspired me to be able to try to make a feature film from a no budget perspective. I really love his book, Rebel Without a Crew. And yeah, it basically shows that you can make a movie no matter how small the budget. And so, yeah, in regards to public figures, that's my main inspiration, I would say. I also take a certain level of inspiration from the guys who made King Kung Fu, Lance Hayes and Bob Walterscheid, for having made a feature film in Wichita, um, to show that it's possible, and basically pursue that passion, that goal, no matter where you live, basically. Um, yeah, and many of the other like filmmakers around here in Wichita who've done their own feature length films. Dillis Hart, who is the producer of a feature film in Wichita that was made here in Wichita called Night Screams, and that actually has a brand new Blu-ray release coming out. And also Leif Yonker, who made Darkness back then in the 90s. I did take lots of inspiration from people who've made their own films here in Wichita.
That's really nice because hometown heroes are always wonderful, and they are definitely a source of inspiration. I'm glad that you came across these people, and I'm sure they would love to know that they've made that impact on you if they don't already. So, and that's wonderful. Okay, so tell us about Vendetta Road. Tell us what's coming up. What can we expect in the near future with that particular project?
Um, well, it's available to stream on multiple platforms, particularly Amazon, as well as YouTube Movies and Google Play. Um, but yeah, in regards of what to expect about the film, just expect it to be a very intense thriller with lots of twists, and just keep in mind it's also a $5,000 movie, so there is a bit of a low budget look to it, if I may say so. Um, but I think it also is still very, very watchable as well. I don't think it's possible to get bored during that movie. It does move along very quickly. Something is always happening. Um, I just I just want to present this as, just an audience film, which, is a time. This film is basically a time capsule of, independent filmmaking from the beginning in 2020, basically, and independent filmmaking from a Kansas perspective as well.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I'm a big believer of this. I've said it plenty of times, is that I don't judge a movie or a feature, or even a series, by its budget, because we all know there's plenty of big, not big, huge, multi-million-dollar projects that you're like, why did I just pay to see that? And yet, then there's
Yeah.
little cult classics or little obscure movies and projects that you're like, wow, that was really well written. That was really well shot. So budget means nothing to me. It's about who's behind that camera on the other end of it. So I'm looking forward to it. And I'm going to definitely make sure that I continue following you and everything that you're up to. And for our viewers, tell us where they could find you.
Well, Vendetta Road in particular, you can find it on Facebook and Instagram. On Facebook, it's just Vendetta Road Movie, and on Instagram, it is Vendetta Road Movie as well. Basically, the at Vendetta Road Movie, and personal. You can find me on Instagram at Nathan99Light, all lowercase, and yeah, my Facebook's just Nathan Light. If you want to network with me on there as well, I'd be more than happy to get to know lots of people from lots of fellow filmmakers from around the world, basically.
Yeah, and I, of course, will make sure if you check the bottom, there it'll be all in the description as far as where to find Nathan. And I would highly suggest anyone in your vicinity, especially in Wichita and that Kansas in general, that area there, please reach out to Nathan. Maybe you guys can collaborate. Maybe you guys can do something together. Whether you're someone that's just starting out, or maybe someone who's a little bit more established. Of course, city, state, worldwide, reach out to Nathan Light, because I really believe that you're going to be going places, Nathan. I've seen what you've done in the short period of time that I've known you, and I'm really inspired by you. So keep up that great work.
Thank you. Yeah, I definitely will. And yeah, I hope this film does open some more doors as well to be able to also network and be able to make more projects that are on an even bigger scope.
I would bet on it. I would bet on it. And the key two words that I like to use is keep going, keep going, and that's been a mantra of mine that has paid off, and I know it'll pay off for you. All right, any last words, Nathan, before we end the program?
Um, no, not much really. Just if you want to follow my work, just yeah, check out Vendetta Road, but also check out the Blu-ray release for the movie King Kung Fu, and my making of documentary is on the bonus features there.
Great. Listen. You got me interested, really.
Yeah,
um,
it's really something.
yeah, it sounds like it. Sounds really cool. All right. Well, listen. Again, we have Nathan Light here, and his project is called Vendetta Road. Check it out. Check him out. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you subscribe, like, share the Vinny Show with all your friends and family. I'm Vinny, your host, Vinny from South Philly. We've had Nathan Light join us this evening. It's light where you're at, but it's a little dark where I'm at. And it's been a pleasure, Nathan. I look forward to keeping an eye on you, and you can certainly reach out to me anytime. Maybe we can someday maybe work together. But
Okay.
in the meantime, lots of luck.
Sweet. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
It's my pleasure. Again, folks, thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. In the meantime, take care of yourself and those around you. We'll see you next time.